Hello friend, welcome back. Today we're going to be diving into my simple approach to photo editing. I make a full-time living doing video production. I freelance here in Kansas City. Photos is something I just do for fun, often documenting my everyday life. I want a photo editing process that is straightforward, it is easy, as few clicks as possible, and still produces really good results that feel natural, but also a little bit stylistic, a little bit intentional without going too far and being too creative. So that's what we're going to look at today. If you've been around this channel any length of time, I've taught about color grading. You guys have seen often how I color grade the footage I'm getting from my Fujifilm cameras. And when I went to design my photo presets, I just took what I learned in that process. I didn't want to create a one-for-one match, a really scientific or technical, one-to-one between my photo presets and my video LUTs, but just wanted to kind of take what I learned, provide a similar style to those out there who are editing photos, wanting to get similar results. So we're going to look at a bunch of examples today in Lightroom, how I exactly edit. You guys are going to see my exact process of what the image originally looked like and what the final images look like after my presets. The last few photos are going to be iPhone because while I'm primarily a Fujifilm shooter and I love the colors coming out of Fujifilm cameras, I created these presets so they will work with a wide variety of camera systems and including iPhone. Okay, so here we are in Lightroom. I'm using Lightroom Classic, but this would be the same for the cloud-based version of Lightroom as well as Lightroom Mobile. I already have my presets loaded in, and I just have a series of photos that we're gonna walk through and just kind of edit them, talk you guys through them, what I'm doing, what preset I'm using, what tweaks I'm making, and hope that that process would be helpful to see. So my presets are already loaded over here. I can just cycle through them, see which one I like. I think right away, I really like M1. I really like how this is looking. I might just warm it up just a smidge. I mean, yeah, we're doing like +2, and then maybe bring my exposure down tad, just because the skin was looking a little bit bright, and maybe I'll lift then the shadows up. But right there, guys, with just a few clicks, it probably was good already, but made a few very subtle tweaks, and I really love how that photo's looking. This next one was closer to sunset, and you guys will see this is a little bit darker down here. So I'm actually going to switch my background to white so we can see the contrast here a little bit better. But again, let's just go through. I think I like M1. Actually, I think I like M3 on this one. M3 is a little bit warmer. And so let's start with this as a base. I think I love everything that's going on. I might just bring back a little bit of our shadow detail. I still want it to feel contrasty, but I don't want that to go completely to black. So maybe right there, and then maybe I'll bring our overall exposure up a tad. And I really love how that photo looks. This next shot, we're just going to switch this background back to black. And let's go ahead and cycle through these. I think M1 looks great. I think on this one, I kind of like the green, bluish green tones of M2. I think that suits it really well. And I don't even think I'm going to touch this one. I think this looks great as is. I feel like the exposure and white balance was really right in camera, and I'm really loving the look. I think I love kind of these blurry edges, so maybe I could come down here to grain and just kind of crank the grain. I feel like that would be a really fun look, just adding in a little bit of texture to this photo. But yeah, there's that one. This next one was kind of an interior mixed lighting scenario, and we're just going to cycle through. I think on this one, between M1 and M6, there's M1, and then there's M6. I think I like kind of the greenish tones of M6, so let's go ahead and do that. And if we scroll back up to the top here, again, how this was shot in just classic chrome. We're going to be losing some highlight information. I didn't shoot it in RAW, so maybe I'll just bring my highlights down to kind of retain as much of that window as possible. And then to compensate, let's go ahead and bring our exposure back up just a tad. This next photo is of my friend John. You guys might recognize him. I think as we cycle through, I think M3 looks good. Maybe we'll go with the warmth of M3. I think I like that. I think the only thing I might do is just bump up our contrast, maybe just a smidge. And maybe we'll crop this one just a tad. like that. And just like that, guys, really easy. This next photo was just walking on the street in Copenhagen. And let's go ahead and cycle through. I think on this one, I like the warmth of, I think I like M5. I like kind of the reddish tones going on over here. And our highlight detail looks okay. I could maybe bring that down just a smidge, but I think that's all I'm going to do to this one. This photo right here, I just thought this thing was so cool looking. A couple different options. I think M1 right off the bat looks great. M3 also looks good, but I think with the bluish tones, I think I want to keep that instead of going warmer, and might just bring our exposure up just a little bit. And I really like how that's looking. The shot is a little bit different, kind of a silhouette at sunset. You guys can kind of see just in different lighting scenarios how these look. I think I really like the warmth of M3 here, just with this being sunset, and I think I like where all the values are sitting. This is maybe a little bit dark down here, so maybe I'll bring my shadows up just a smidge so it's not as contrasty. Moving on to this photo here, let's go ahead and cycle through. I think M1 I really like. So maybe I'll talk about this now. So the difference between M1 and M7 film, they're really similar. M7 film just is a little bit less contrasty and has some grain settings already applied. You guys want to increase the grain, you can. I just kind of set it at a normal level that I like. And I think this photo with the M7 looks really great. Maybe I will just adjust our exposure down a little bit because it was maybe shot a little bit bright. Right there, I really love how that one turned out. Moving on to this one here, I think I like M3. Again, just the warmth. A lot of times I'm picking between M1 or M3, but I wanted to give you guys more variations in case you wanted them. And again, maybe I'll bring my exposure down just a smidge. A lot of these I shot on the Fuji x100vi just with the auto exposure settings, and so I was kind of getting used to that camera. I think some ended up perfect, but some just need a little bit of tweaking. This photo here, let's go ahead and cycle through. M3 looks cool, but I think I want to keep more of the true to life green, so let's go M2. I like kind of the contrast that that is giving us, and I'm just going to bring our highlights down a smidge and see if I adjust our white balance just a little bit. There we go. This shot right here was at sunset, burning this fire. So let's go ahead and switch our background to white so we can kind of keep an eye on this detail. And I think this is a good example where even in these kind of more dramatic scenarios, I think these presets still don't look too stylized. I think I'm gonna go with M2 because it's a little bit more contrasty, and then I'm just gonna pull up our shadows. We're gonna see what detail was left in these JPEGs, and that is not bad at all. Let me see our blacks as well. How much detail can we get back? And so right there, I think this one is good. Back to the streets of Copenhagen on this one. We're just gonna go M1, and we're not gonna tweak anything else. Super easy. This one right here is of my friend Isaac's motorcycle. I think M1 looks a little too cool, so we'll probably end up with M3 for the warmth. And maybe I will bring our exposure down just a smidge, and there we go. This one was during closer to sunset, a little bit more contrast as we apply M1. I still think that looks really good. I don't think I want the warmth. I think we'll just go with M1, and I'm just gonna pull up our shadows just a smidge. I wanna keep that contrast, but just lift those up ever so slightly. Photo of this cool car right here. I think for this one, I'm just gonna go M3, and then maybe I'll pull my shadows up just a tad so they're not clipping. And I think that looks really great. Here's another kind of silhouette-y, contrasty one in my studio. Honestly, a lot of these look good. I think I like the orange warmth of M3, and similar, because this was shot so dark, I still want to keep that silhouette look, so maybe I'll just lift up the shadows just a smidge. But just like that, this one was really easy to edit. Here's one outdoors, just at a soccer game. I was curious just how the lighting would look. This was kind of closer to blue hour, and then there was the stadium lights, and I just was curious how these would turn out. So I think for this one, I like kind of the contrast of M2, but I might just warm it up just a smidge. I'm kind of keeping an eye on the tone of the grass, and I don't think there's anything else that I would change about this one. So these last few are all going to be iPhone, and we're just going to show you guys how those work on iPhone as well. A lot of times on iPhone, I'll end up pulling for the film presets as they're a little bit less contrasty, and then there's already that grain, which I think is nice on film photos, or sorry, on iPhone photos. And so let's go ahead and bump that up just a little bit. And I'm also going to go ahead and take down our sharpening, just because I feel like iPhone photos are already pretty sharp. And I might just adjust the crop just a smidge. This photo right here is just kind of a landscape that I thought was really pretty. We cycled through our options. Because this was closer to sunset, I think M3 looked good, but also M9 looks good as well. I think we'll go M3, and sometimes iPhone photos too, I think, can look really saturated, so maybe we'll pull our saturation down just a smidge. And again, because this is iPhone, let's take off our sharpening, and let's turn up the grain just to take a little bit of that edge off. This photo here, I think I really like M5. And I'm just not even going to touch anything else. If I was editing iPhone photos, wanted to share a photo from a trip, I might just put it on my phone, cycle through, call that good, and then move on. This one right here was in New York City. And I feel like for this one, I didn't do black and white on any of the rest. So let's go ahead and talk about black and white. That is number 10. So it's pretty similar to M1, but just goes black and white with it. And I think with black and whites, I just want to make sure the contrast is in a good spot. So I'm actually just going to bring our shadows down so that feels nice and contrasty. And then because this is iPhone again, let's just add a little bit of grain because that's fun, and take off our sharpening. This last photo here is our last one that we're going to talk through. Also iPhone. I think M1 looks great. And then because it's iPhone, let's just go no sharpening. Bring up our grain. And sometimes on iPhone photos too, you can make them to get a little bit softer if you use the clarity slider. And so obviously you can find what feels too extreme and then bring it back. But right there, I feel really happy with this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you found this video helpful. If you're interested in checking out my photo presets or my video LUTs, there's going to be a link down below to my shop. I really appreciate each of you guys being here, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.